see Russia president, Burkina Faso president, even Okonjo-Iweala and also some world leaders picking Biafraland to build World Trade Organization African headquarters, and even the Russian embassy. Why is all of these things coming to Biafraland?
Embassy of the Federation of Russia, that's we located in Aba, and it was an official statement from Vladimir Putin. You know, and he said it very clearly that embassy of the office of the Russia, you know, embassy of Russia, you know, will be located.
World leaders focus and shifted their attention to Biafraland. In other words, they have shifted all their focus to Biafrans. There was a time I brought this message about the underground meeting on how the government of Burkina Faso by Ibrahim Traore and his best friend and counterpart Vladimir Putin of Russia, they are trying all they can to make sure that they penetrate Biafra land. And the only way they can achieve that is to go it through diplomatic means, because they really want to help Biafrans to overcome the temptation that is before us. But anyway, let me not waste much of your time. I will allow you to just focus on this message from this our brother, and also make sure you watch this message from beginning to the end. In case of any gaffe, please pardon me. I go do more than myself. That's why my tongue peel. So it seems like I'm learning how to talk. But all the same, please focus on the message and forget about the messenger. Let me allow you to watch this message from beginning to the end, and then at the back of it, we will come back here to discuss more. Please, I beg you, share this message. We are making a headway. Even when the zoo are trying all they can, when Bianca Ono are fighting in tooth and nail to make sure that they stop Biafra from coming, but people of goodwill who know that the project of Biafra is everyone's concern, is making sure that they leave no stone unturned, and in other words, they are making every arrangement on how to come in, and we are going to make it possible for them to come in. Okay, regardez.
See Russia president, Burkina Faso president, even Okonjo-Iweala and also some world leaders picking Biafraland to build World Trade Organization African headquarters, and even the Russian embassy. Why is all of these things coming to Biafraland?
Embassy of the Federation of Russia, that's we located in Aba, and it was an official statement from Vladimir Putin. You know, and he said it very clearly that embassy of the office of the Russia, you know, embassy of Russia, you know, will be located, you know, of the Federation, embassy of the Federation of Russia. That the embassy will be located in Aba, Biafraland. And why specifically choosing Aba? I repeat, I'm talking about the core, you know, Biafraland, you know. And secondly, at the same time, we are seeing series of meetings ongoing within the top class of the business world. Like we heard that Elon Musk is also going to invest massively on airports, building of international airports in Biafran land, considering the fact that the Biafran land is closer to the Atlantic in less than few nautical miles to the Atlantic. And I can tell you, in the maritime navigation, if you want to, you first of all, you know, get to Biafran land before you move to Lagos. So we have more waters in Lagos, but that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about the celebration that is going on as these two powerful projects are being located in Biafra land. We also heard that in the process that the Biafran government also signed a recognition pact with Russian government, you know, federation. And let me use the word federation because it's the Federation of Russia. You know, it's not funny, but it's real. You know, it calls for a lot of celebration. It tells you that, you know, Biafrans are not terrorists. Biafrans are resilient people, and the world have come to identify with the Igbo spirit. The world have come to celebrate the Biafran resilience and success and support, you know, over the years. So if Russia is one of the respected nations around the world, one of the most powerful nations around the world, I can tell you that, you know, and for them to have agreed to move their embassy to Biafraland. It tells you that a lot of things are being carried out, a lot of things are happening behind the scene, and especially Dr. Ngozi, of course, one of our own, who happens to be the President General of the World Trade Organization, Okonjo Iweala, relocating. I think that will be the first headquarters in Africa, WHO headquarters in Africa. World Trade Organization headquarters will be relocated to the same Aba again. So a lot of things are coming to Aba, and that's why you can see the speed at which the governor of Abia State, Alex Oti, is warming up for the reality on ground. A lot of things are opening up in preparation that Biafra takeoff is likely going to be very smooth. Russia signals the recognition of Biafra. The Vladimir Putin wants, and that's a direct message to the global world, especially now we are seeing it very clearly that Russia has joined the support, solidarity for Biafra.
A lot of people are also saying, why is the deputy prime minister of Biafraland, Ngozi Orabueze, why is she coming out so frequently this time around, saying that she has submitted necessary documents to every international bodies to ensure the recognition of Biafra? Why is she doing all of this?
Yes, it's very influential currently now, and acting on the authorities and the will of Mazen Nnamdi Kanu. You can know that the slogan has now changed. It's now IPOB, Biafra government in exile. So there's a collaboration now because the forces have come to join together, and because our representative seems to be operating in that regard. So what that actually means at this point is that Ngozi Orebeze herself, hasn't been very active in that category, in that caliber. Has been busy, submitting those documentations matters. These are some of these. It's not about proclamation of Biafra. It's about when it is being recognized, how many countries are going to indicate interest, and those documents you are seeing, they are being submitted, for recognition, has to go with a lot of diplomacy, has to go with a lot of treaties, have to go with a lot of bilaterals, have to go with a lot of agreements. And that is why you see the way it is going in that, and it has been long, yes, because the Ibrahim Traore and the Russian land that it was Ibrahim Traore who are also facilitated the Vladimir Putin final support for the recognition of Biafra as a nation. So he trended, he added value. Ibrahim Traore, having identified and made a lot of statements about Mazen Nnamdi Kanu in the past, but you can see what is actually coming is bigger, better, and more, significant that Aso Rock is currently in shock. There's so much crisis within the Aso Rock, surroundings currently now, because the Biafran quest is getting more international momentum on daily basis. They never saw it coming. The guys who are formidably pushing for recognition of a nation that have existed and is still existing, where the allies of Biafra till today have not renounced their alliance up to this moment. So what we are asking is very simple, very clear, that in as much as Israel cannot live with Hamas, and as much as in New York they cannot be able to live with the impression that there's an Islamic agenda in the United States, then why would somebody tell the Biafrans to live with Boko Haram? So it's not possible. So the agitation and solidarity for Biafra has taken an international diplomatic angle. That's why you see powerful leaders around the world, indicating in preparation that nobody should be taken away, because the fear is that they don't want a particular country to be overwhelming or seen to have hijacked Biafra in the process. Everybody wants to be part of what is going to come. And remember that Biafrans themselves, as individuals, have impacted the world so much.
What would you also say? Why is the Johanese youth pressuring Donald Trump? What is their reasons for pressuring Donald Trump?
It's very clear. Unfortunately, they feel that Donald Trump has actually given up. Yes, based on his last statement, that there's nothing like terrorism again, that America has been able to quash the act of terror in Nigeria. That was a very, I would not say it's an unfortunate statement to have come from one of my favorite presidents in the world. Well, I felt bad when Donald Trump actually made that statement, and they came out very clearly because the Igbo people are the people that represent the Christendom in this country. They have the largest Christian community in Nigeria, the Igbo people. So anything about attacks on Christian, they have a major impact on them psychologically and otherwise. And that is why that when U.S. government said they are closely, Randy Moore made that statement, they are monitoring the Nigerian presidential election. It's not today that United States of America has been monitoring Nigerian election, or the international community, the EU, have been monitoring Nigerian election. But what we are seeing is the proactiveness on the reality and ground, and that's what Ohaneze youth leader is saying, that you cannot be doing this and pretend as if you do not know that somebody was unjustly caged by Nigerian government. I'm talking about Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. That at this point in time, what the U.S. government would have done is to order for the immediate release of unconditional release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, just like what they did to Sunday Jackson, that was sentenced to death. But we don't know whether it was the same because of this narrative that all of a sudden I saw the appeal court changing the narrative about Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's case, quashing the life imprisonment by James Omotosho and Bola Ahmed Tinubu, unfortunate government. Then, and secondly, I saw Bilikisu Aliu, the appeal court judge, coming out also to dismantle the cross appeal by Aworowo, what they call him, of the federal government prosecutor, who also demanded that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu be sentenced to death. So I'm telling you that what you are seeing in the appeal court, it's not that the appeal court want to give Mazi Nnamdi Kanu judgment. It's because of the exposure of the atrocities that have been committed by the Nigerian judiciary that made them to pretend over this issue of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Because the international community, what the pressure is just too much and just very much overwhelming.
All right, so we also heard Ngozi Orabueze still saying that he has written letters to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to stop invading the Biafraland. What does this also mean?
It's a direct signal, because Biafra has become a sovereign nation, and that what we are waiting for is the recognition of Biafra by the nations, powerful nations around the world, and that is a direct message to Asura to stop deploying that. We have to keep them on their toes, and that's what it means. Have to checkmate their excesses, and you can see all manner of military now springing up in Biafraland, in almost every nook and cranny. And but this is something Mazi Nnamdi Kanu foresaw and was able to put up ESN in the process. But the government want to show that they are government, but it has not paid brought any dividend. They are not killing themselves, and that's what the Northerners want to see, and that's what an average Northerner is happy about. Because for you to destroy an Igbo, you have to use an Igbo to destroy an Igbo, and that was a genuine, advice by Kumi. Now you can see what is happening in Bago or Ogogachi and all those manner of rubbish everywhere. And does not bring sanity to the Biafraland. So on that note, Ngozi Orabueze is mandating the federal government of Nigeria to begin the complete dismantling of whatever they have in terms of invasion in that place, to leave immediately before it is too late. Because when any day Biafra is really recognized by the powerful nations around the world as expected, there will be no exit, there will be no entry.
All right, so what would you also say are the reason why the federal government is now putting more pressure not to allow Mazi Nnamdi Kanu come out?
Yes, I think they will definitely comply. The Israeli ambassador, Michael Friedman, visited Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, why after the appeal court victory, and we also believe that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has been moved from Sokoto prison to a location, where the federal government only pending when formalities will be technicalities will be worked out, and a final judgment from the appeal. If the federal government are not going to, appeal that government judgment or take it to, the Supreme Court at the end of the day. But that notwithstanding, as it stands now, they do not have any option than to obey the pressure coming from the U.S. government and the Congress.
All right, so what would you say to Biafrans as it stands now? What should Biafrans do so as to ensure that this struggle keeps on?
Everybody should just be formidable, should be focused, and celebrate Chukwu Akike Abiyama for Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, someone he never gave up, jettison anything that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu jettisons, including the SDOS rubbish, shadow rubbish. They should go back their load and go away and give us space. Yes, I would also celebrate Simon Ekpa for being very loyal and consistent, even though at a point people misinterpreted his activities, but it has become very clear because the wind has blown now. Everybody, everything has become very crystal clear. I want to tell you that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu did not compromise the Biafran struggle. If you had compromised the Biafran struggle, we wouldn't be talking about him being celebrated all over the world, celebrated in the Congress, celebrated in the Knesset, celebrated in Italy, Rome, Brazil, Australia, Italy, many countries around the world. Even in Burkina Faso today, Russia has joined the League of Nations seeking recognition of Biafra.
Welcome back. It is a thing of joy. It is something that was celebrating. That Nigerian government are, on the other hand, fighting to stop Biafrans, while countries that have dignities, countries that have capacities, countries that have what it takes to feed that zoo in all their entire life, all of them are showing interest on that project they called Biafra Liberation. Many people don't understand that Biafra is a project, and it's not only the concerns of Igbos alone. A lot of countries want Biafra to gain their independence, so that they will then come down to define that word Nigeria. A lot of countries are waiting. Immediately Biafra secede from Nigeria, they are going to be suing and counter-suing, affidavit and counter-affidavit, because a lot of countries are going to take Nigeria and UK to court. These two countries combined together, they perform a lot of atrocities that affected the countries that are going to take action when Biafra finally comes. So that is why it remains everybody's project, not only the Igbos. And everybody's project, a lot of people also ganged up to fight for that. Don't forget, anytime you want to fight corruption, corruption will always fight back. That is what we have in this present day generation. But notwithstanding that we, Umu Chineke, Ndị Agọziri Agọzi, we must surely prevail. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu made it categorically clear. He said at the end that Biafra must surely come. And my prayers and wish is that you will be alive to see that happen. Because for happening, it's going to happen. When? Very soon. Don't mind the zoo propaganda media. Because now, they want to win election. They are trying to use Simon Ekpa again, the same way they did to Nnamdi Kanu. Delay him when we won election, and then we free him. After the election, then they will hang up. Exactly what they did to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Now, I'm hearing some kepu that they want to keep Mazi Nnamdi Kanu until after Nigeria election, because they are afraid that Simon Ekpa will order no election voting in Biafraland. So if this kind of plan is in place, automatically it is not going to be only zoo alone. That means our people from the southeast is 100% in support of it. Somebody like Ojuzo Kalu, who knows that anything that will make Simon Ekpa or Nnamdi Kanu to gain freedom, their electoral popularity will drop to zero. Their electoral popularity will drop to zero. So these guys will make sure that these two guys are not being released until after 2027 election, which is on January. So now it is no longer for call to free them. It is now the case of to keep them because these people are being held politically. Let us not waste much time, because as you can see, the message you watch is a little bit longer. So let me just dissect the comment section. 1 or 2 or 3 comments, and then we'll round up because we don't have much time to waste. How true is this news about the investors, specifically because of Biafra and not a disease from the Nigerian state? My brother, back me, man. The news is authentic. I have saw the news in 3 different tabloids. James said, also the peace and tranquility that exists in Abia State and the good governors of Alex Oti. Great man said, God has remembered Abia State and Igbo land. In a time like this, to God be the glory that our Abia State will be the headquarters of all the whole embassies that is coming into Biafraland. Well, that is your own, my brother. What we want is development. Any state they fall in, that one does not care. I mean, it does not matter. David said, this is what we have been waiting for. Thank you, my brother, for letting us know. It's a very nice update. Well, my wonderfully men Biafran brothers and sisters, this one is another Ubonga news. Please, as you are watching, you know what to do. Share, like, comment, and subscribe. Follow us on all our social media handles. Don't forget, we are here to serve you, and we must do all our best to make sure we serve you better. Catch you next time.